Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I'll be talking about the rumor that the Washington Commanders are expected to target Ravens head of scouting Joe Hortiz as their general manager and Ravens defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald for their head coaching job. We'll talk about this and more. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and the notification bell as well. Alright, so let's get into this rumor. The regular season is pretty much over. The Washington Commanders are playing the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm not doing a preview video or anything. The Commanders are double-digit underdogs in this game. Hopefully they lose and we get the better draft pick. I know some people want to win for some reason, but it does not help us to win this game. Everyone involved with this team, not everyone, but a lot of people are going to be gone, including front office, coaches, and a lot of players as well. So you want to put yourself in the best position moving forward for your next general manager. And also, a better draft pick makes your GM spot a lot more attractive if you have the number 2 overall pick versus the number 5, number 6 overall pick. So this was, this came out today, and I think Jason LaCanfora, reported this. And he does have his, Ravens and Commanders ties, I guess. And I know a lot of people don't love him, but let's read it. The Commanders are expected to be targeting Ravens head of scouting Joe Hortiz and defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald to be their next GM and head coach. Via general managers. It's not going to be a retread according to a longtime league executive, and that's what I love. I do not want a retread at all. And I talked about Joe Hortiz in my GM video a couple days ago, and I've talked about Mike Macdonald a lot. He probably is my number 2 or number 3 guy in terms of head coaching candidates. Ben Johnson's one. He's one, and there's no one really that close to him, for me at least. There's no one contending for one, but I think Mike Macdonald might be number 2. Him and Bobby Slowick are the guys I really like. There's some other guys as well, I think it's Dave Canales from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who is an offensive coordinator. You got some other guys as well, like the Dolphins OC, but I like Mike Macdonald, man. I can always say it when I'm not looking at the name, but because it's spelled a little bit differently, I always mispronounce it. But Mike Macdonald has a good track record, was with the Ravens as a defensive coordinator, then he was doing really well. Then he went to the Michigan Wolverines, and when he went there, Michigan was good, and he helped develop guys like Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo, I think that's his name, who was really good there. But while he was there, the Ravens defense wasn't as good, and then he comes back, I think last year, and they've done really, really well. So he's been good. He's also young. I think he's 38 years old. He's, analytics based as well, so he's not going to be like Ron Rivera. And I'm going to read the tidbit they had. So Ron Rivera has known this was over for quite some time, and so have many within the organization. The clock has been ticking on his tenure for months. 2 GMs told me they expect new owner Josh Harris to hire a GM before he hires a coach. That's the right way to do it. There are rumblings about him looking down the road to the Ravens, whose head of scouting Joe Hortiz and defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald are very much it guys heading into offseason. I think Harris goes young. Someone analytically inclined, said one longtime NFL executive who is also not permitted to publicly speculate about front office hires. It's not going to be a retread. That's basically what they reported, but in a long version. So they weren't necessarily saying Mike Macdonald and Joe Hortiz exactly, but they're saying Ravens guys, or at least that's kind of what I got from it. But I think I predicted a week or 2 ago, I put out a tweet saying I think it's going to be Mike Macdonald as their head coach, because again, he has those ties with the Ravens, who Josh Harris likes. Also, Eugene Shen was with the Ravens, and not only that, he was an intern with Mike Macdonald, so they're very connected. And Eugene Shen for sure has influence here in Washington and will be one of the guys making the decision on the general manager. It'll be Josh Harris, but guess who's going to be giving him the advice? It's going to be Eugene Shen, and he has firsthand experience with Mike Macdonald. So I think that's probably my favorite, not in terms of who I want the most, but I think that's, if I had to bet on someone, that's who I'm betting on. And but if Ben Johnson's available, maybe they want him. I could see that as well. Those are kind of my top 2, though. I think right now, I know people really want an offensive mind, and I get that. I get that for sure, especially pairing that with a young rookie quarterback, which is probably what's going to happen here in Washington with Caleb Williams or Drake May or maybe Jaden Daniels, or I don't think Michael Penix will be drafted. by Washington early at least, but you never know. Who knows what he does, what he does in this national championship game. But you probably want an offensive-minded coach. But you see what DeMeco Ryans did this year with the Texans. He chose a good offensive coordinator in Bobby Slowick, and Bobby Slowick was able to develop C.J. Stroud in this offense, and DeMeco Ryans was able to handle the rest. And their team has a chance to make the playoffs if they win. I guess it's tomorrow against the Indianapolis Colts, which we are, I guess, for our draft pick, we're rooting for the Colts. But they did a good job. So it can work, and DeMeco Ryans is young, and so is Mike Macdonald. So I wouldn't mind the Mike Macdonald hire at all. I think it would be a solid hire for the Washington Commanders for sure. I really do think it would be. And we've seen the rumors recently that, Josh Harris is trying to model this team kind of after the Ravens. So if that's the case, they've got Joe Hortiz, who's, I made a video talking about him and going over his background. So if you guys want to see a full background on the GM candidates I talked about, go ahead and watch the last video. It'll be on the end screen, so make sure you finish this and then watch that. But there's a lot of guys, Adam Peters, Joe Hortiz, Ian Cunningham, and a couple other guys I talked about as well. So I could definitely see Joe Hortiz being one of the guys, and they could hire him as the president and GM, or they could hire him as the GM and then maybe hire someone else as the president, or they just will have a GM or just a president. It really depends. I think they'll probably hire a president, but sometimes the president is also the GM, because the president of football operations obviously has more power than the GM, but sometimes they just keep the guy. He just has two titles. He has two titles, and that's what the Commanders could do. But maybe they also want to get another guy in there as well. They could, get two guys from the Ravens as well. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. And get one guy who's the, president, and then, grab another guy from the Ravens front office that is their, money guy. I talked about him earlier this past week. All right, and here's his official title. And again, shout out to TM Reshmanuel, who always has these connections. But Pat Moriarty, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Pat, if you're somehow watching this, which he's not, Ravens senior vice president. I think he does a lot of their money things. So he could potentially get an elevated role here. I doubt he would get a GM spot here, but who knows? It could be any one of those Ravens guys besides like DaCosta. And I think I saw Ozzie Newsome somehow still there. I thought he retired though, but obviously it's not going to be him or someone like that. It'll be someone younger, but Joe Hortiz is one of the front runners, I would say. But Pat Moriarty is one of the sleeper candidates I talked about in my other video. Going back to Mike Macdonald, just some information about him if you guys want to see. Grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, went to Georgia. So Ravens defensive coordinator in 2022 after spending 2021 as Michigan's DC, and he spent 7 seasons in Baltimore serving as a linebackers coach, defensive backs coach, defensive assistant, and defensive coaching intern as well. And there's one thing, sorry, this is totally off topic, or not totally off topic, but I did see this, cool here, and it was, quote tweeted on this original tweet, but Ravens QB coach T. Martin, former 5th round pick at QB who was drafted ahead of Tom Brady, I believe, was Peyton Manning's backup for 2 years at Tennessee and had an all-time stretch as the USC's receiving coach from 2012 to 2018, could be an offensive coordinator. So maybe you hire Mike Macdonald, and then T. Martin is your OC. You hire someone else as a DC, and that would be a really good combination there. I would absolutely love that trio right there. All right, I'm back. Sorry, my dog was going crazy barking. I don't know what, but probably the mailman. I don't know. But yeah, that would be a potential offensive coordinator that could go after is T. Martin, former player. Again, we talked about that, and yeah, he's done good, well with the Ravens, and then also as a USC. As their, wide receivers coach. So I like that hire, potential hire OC, and then maybe, he does well, and after a couple of years, maybe he gets a head coaching job. And if that happens, you get a couple 3rd round picks. So I would not mind that at all. And if you're going to hire, defensive minded head coach, as long as he can, find good OCs, you're going to be fine. So if Mike Macdonald can hire the right people, and that's really what this business is about, then we'll be fine. So he's got to hire a good OC to develop that whoever our young QB is, if it's Caleb Williams or if it's Drake May or if it's Jaden Daniels or maybe Sam Howell, probably not, but who knows. He just got to hire the right guy. And I don't even know if it's going to be Mike Macdonald. This is just a rumor, and you never know what to believe at this point. I do think, though, they're going to target a lot of Ravens guys and maybe even some Philly people as well, front office people. So that's it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and peace.